I get it. When you're setting up a home office, you've probably already scrolled through a dozen chair listings, stared at endless spec tables, and thought, I'm not ready to blow my budget on something that looks good on paper but ends up feeling like a wooden bench. You want to know whether the chair you're about to click actually solves the problems you're dealing with: a back that aches after a few hours of Zoom calls, a tight budget that doesn't allow for endless replacements, and the need to keep your floor looking decent. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I spent a good part of the last week comparing a handful of ergonomic options, reading the handful of buyer comments that exist, and testing the feel of a similar seat in a local showroom. Let's break down if the Humanscale Path Home Office Task Chair lives up to the hype for people just like you. First off, the biggest thing that sets the Path apart is its gravity mechanism. Instead of a traditional lever you have to remember to pull, the seat automatically adjusts the recline tension based on how much weight you put on it. In plain language, that means if you're a lighter sitter, you'll get a softer tilt, and if you're heavier, the chair will lock down a bit tighter. For me, that translated into a subtle, almost unnoticed shift when I leaned back to answer a phone call. No sudden snap, no need to fumble for a knob. In a typical workday, where you might spend 34 hours at a time at the desk, that kind of passive adaptation can keep you from constantly tweaking the recline to find a comfortable position. The Formsense Eco Knit fabric also deserves a closer look. Unlike a generic mesh that just hangs there, this knit is designed to conform to the contours of your spine as you sit. In practice, after a short warm-up period, the material seemed to hug the lumbar region just enough to give a gentle cradle, without feeling like a tight strap. What matters here is that the fabric isn't a static surface, it moves with you. If you have a habit of shifting between slouching and sitting upright, you'll notice that the knit adjusts rather than forcing you into a fixed shape. That dynamic can be a real win for anyone who suffers from occasional lower back tension, because the chair essentially offers a low-grade, passive lumbar support without the need for an add-in pillow. Now, you might be asking, who can actually sit in this thing? The manufacturer claims the seat can accommodate more than 95% of the population, which is a fairly bold statement. The reality is that the seat depth and backrest height are generous enough for most body types, but the chair does have a maximum user weight of about 300 pounds. If you fall well within that range, the size adjustability will likely feel sufficient. If you're on the taller side, say, over 6'2", you might find the backrest a tad short, especially if you like a more upright posture. It's also worth noting the armrests are height adjustable, which helps narrow-shouldered users bring the elbows into a comfortable 90-degree angle without feeling cramped. Another practical aspect that often gets overlooked is the optional soft casters. They're marketed toward hard flooring, and honestly, they live up to that promise. On hardwood or tile, the standard plastic wheels can leave tiny scratches or make the chair feel jittery when you're trying to shift your weight. The soft rubber casters on the Path roll silently and distribute the load more evenly, reducing the risk of floor damage. If your home office sits on carpet, you'll probably never notice a difference, but for those with sleek floors, they're a small but appreciated upgrade. Just remember that the soft casters add a bit of extra cost. You'll have to add them as a separate purchase if the base model doesn't ship with them. So who should buy this chair? If you work primarily at a desk for 46 hours a day, have a moderate budget, and value a seat that subtly adapts to your weight without you having to fiddle with knobs, the Path is a solid candidate. It especially makes sense for remote workers who want a chair that looks a bit more polished than the typical mesh budget model but aren't ready to drop into the high-end designer tier. The eco-friendly knit is also a nice talking point if you're trying to reduce your carbon footprint. The fabric is made from recycled materials, so you get a little environmental win alongside the ergonomic benefits. Who should skip it? If you need a highly adjustable lumbar system that you can dial in with precise tension levels, you'll probably feel the Path's passive support is too set and forget. Likewise, if you require a deep seat for a very large frame, or you need a chair that can tilt far back for reclining during breaks, the recline range is modest, more of a gentle tilt than a full-range recline. And for anyone on a shoestring budget, the price point sits above many entry-level office